something that always stands out to me when making these decisions is if you could choose to be the money or the work, choose the money all day.
Can you expand that? Because I don't think everybody's going to catch that. That's a great line. Let's do it. All right, dude. I want to hear a little bit about, you've had a lot of success and you grew a real estate brokerage really fast. Take me back to, when did you start First Class Real Estate?
So I started First Class Real Estate with my business partner, Ryan Kelly. So we're high school buddies, and I convinced him to get into real estate back in like 2017. He did pretty well in Kansas City and was selling around like 25 homes his first year. Second year in business, he hit close to 50 transactions closed. And then that's about the time where I decided to move out here and we started a team together. And so that was around like 2019-ish when those conversations first started happening. I was spending 2 weeks out of the month in Phoenix, Arizona, where I was living. And I was living for 6 years at the time. And then I spent 2 weeks in Kansas City. So he was basically handling boots on the ground with clients, getting people under contract. And then I would handle basically everything from contract to closing and then the follow-up. So, I did a dual role with back-end management along with prospecting for new leads. And so we did that for a period of time until I fully moved to Kansas City, started our team. And, we were just doing the amount of volume we were doing. We were closing about 25 transactions a month, just us two. And so we were far outpacing like everybody at the brokerage. Like if you total up everybody's numbers at the brokerage, we were still outpacing them. So it just made sense for us to pivot and do our own thing. Yeah. And so we launched in 2020 is when we filed the paperwork for our real estate brokerage and opened it up. And so now we're roughly 4 years into it, pretty close to it. And okay, the stat that was kind of crazy. So we closed when we opened the brokerage, I got out of production. And so I was just managing agents. And so my volume that I was used to did drop because we were depending on the agents to produce. Yeah. So our first year as an office, we did about 130 transactions, right? That's still a good number. There was probably about 20 of us. And, right now we just ran the numbers for first quarter. We've already closed, I think, 180 transactions.
That's awesome.
And so it's pretty cool. So we're far outpacing where we started, right? Yeah. Right now, I think I just checked the numbers. I have 102 transactions pending at the moment, and 80 are set to close out this month.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so we fucking grew it.
Just to clarify, though, you own a brokerage with Ryan Kelly. You guys own 2 first-class real estate brokerages, right?
That's right.
One?
Yep.
2?
We own 2.
Cool. So you own 2 brokerages, and then between both of those brokerages, you have how many agents?
Roughly 150.
Wow. So 2 brokerages, 150 agents that you guys manage. And for those people that don't understand the model, you own the brokerage, and every transaction or every deal an agent sells, you guys keep a small portion of that, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so I know you guys grew really fast. How did you go from 0 agents to 150 in under 4 years?
It was part hard work and just kind of just talking to anybody that had a pulse that had a real estate license and just seeing if, maybe where they're at isn't serving them, and just asking if they want to come under our wing and get some mentorship, and, we can throw them some deals. And that was a lot where our first batch of agents came from. And, we also had to make the decision too, because we were high producing real estate agents. I mean, our average months, we were clearing over 6 figures in profits, just us two. And we had to make a decision to step back from that and build something that was a little more sustainable. And so with that decision, we realized we couldn't be in 2 places at once, meaning I couldn't be serving buyers and sellers as a real estate agent while also providing mentorship and guidance and coaching to my batch of agents that were underneath me. We made a decision to get out of production. And that's really what catapulted us into going full bore into recruiting. And so with that freed up time, instead of answering phone calls, going on showing appointments and dealing with angry sellers, we shifted into how do we provide more training, more value to our real estate agents. So we basically just said, let's go all in on this and try to provide something that's not provided to anybody in Kansas City currently.
Yeah.
And that's
well,
a regular training tempo.
What I'm hearing though is you went from having a job of selling real estate to owning a business that services agents.
Yes, that's correct.
Because it's not, I'm sure it's possible, but it's not easy to have a business as a realtor where you're not a part of it.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's 100% a part of it.
But you are able to step back in the brokerage and let other people manage, so you're not necessarily the full-time operator. You could, at least.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's just redefining like what is my role, and truly like what is my purpose here for the real estate agents? Like what am I growing? At some phase, you are the technician, the person that's getting their hands dirty with actually closing deals and all that stuff. But there needs to be a management portion of that. And so I would neglect the management portion if I was still involved in transactions. And that's a huge flaw, I think, of a lot of people who do start to grow teams, because usually nobody jumps straight into owning a real estate brokerage. They probably manage a team at some capacity, but they find their bandwidth is quickly divided up into too many spaces, meaning you're relying on agents to provide income for you. And you realize that nobody's as good as you are as a team leader. And so you kind of have to humble yourself a little bit and make a decision. Am I gonna keep doing this dual role and watch my agents fail? Or am I gonna, and keep producing? Or am I gonna step out of production and then try to find those good agents who want that training and really want to succeed? So we made that decision pretty early on. It was very clear to us that we were burnt out from the grind of being a real estate agent. So we did that. We made that decision pretty early on, within the first 3 months of opening the brokerage.
Can you describe the roles of an agent, a team leader, a broker owner, and how those are different?
Yeah. So, a good summary of this is this book called The E-Myth Revisited. If you haven't checked that one out, it's an amazing book, and it just encompasses like so many aspects of being an entrepreneur. And they talk about, you have a technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And it's usually the entrepreneur that falls into the trap, and they call it the entrepreneurial seizure, where you try to wear all three hats at the same time.
Yeah.
And you can't do all of them exceptionally well. You can maybe for a period of time, but like things just come up where they just take your time away from other aspects and things get neglected. So having the proper structure in place is key. Now, the role of the agent is to connect buyers and sellers. Like that's as simple as that. Go find buyers, go find people who want to sell a house and connect those people. And so there's a lot of different aspects you can do that, and is very much a full-time job. Like to do it at a high level where you can produce an income that's sustainable, it's every day that's your focus, is finding new prospects to buy, help buy and sell. Now, the manager's role is to give the agents all the tools necessary so they can go be successful. And, that can range from a bunch of different training styles, like whatever your disposition is as a manager. You could be super hands-on, where you provide a lot of direct one-on-one guidance and coaching. But I find that if you're doing one thing for one agent, you're probably going to repeat that task over and over again. And so it just becomes this cycle of, you get an agent in, you train up that one person, you get them to a certain point, they succeed or they fail based on their confidence level and how well they're taking on this new career. And so like I was doing that at one point, and that kind of felt like a grind. And so we shifted more into, how can we recruit a bunch of agents in at once, and we just train them all together, right? So that way I'm multiplying my efforts. Instead of 10 trainings a month with 10 agents, I do one training with 10 agents. So, that was my management style early on. How do I consolidate this into group coaching? But yeah, your styles as a manager can vary. Usually you're in charge of the team, let's call it. And you're going to be compensated maybe in the form of a piece of each deal that closes, and or a salary as well. A lot of times that this person is the broker as well, in the business. And so they're not only overseeing the agents and how well they're producing and then providing coaching opportunities, but they're also signing off on paperwork and handling the compliance component that's important for a real estate office. Now you have the third and final role, and that's the entrepreneur. And I think that's what a lot of anybody that goes and opens a brokerage, they probably have an element of that within them. And the entrepreneur gets bored of repetitive tasks over time. And they're not that grinder that's going to just stay in one role and be happy about that. And that's very much how I am. And so you're constantly looking for that next thing to help move the business in a good direction. And so if you're trying to do all three, you could just see how your time is just consumed. And so to the managers who are still in production that are trying to run a successful organization, I just have this little phrase for it, and it's a mentor, usually a mentor, and a mentor is nothing but a busy agent who doesn't necessarily have time, and if they do, it's very limited because they're worried about their own clients and their own deal flow. So it's this balance of sorts that you have to work through when opening up a brokerage. So first thing we did is we committed to getting out of production, stepping into that manager role, and we had to just sit there for a little bit and just kind of perfect the model. And that's where we focused on, I think, for the first 2 years. And then that helped our growth out a ton.
Well, let me just clarify a little bit of this for people that have no idea anything about real estate. So you have, clarify this for me. You have the real estate agent who they're out there hustling, grinding, prospecting, cold calling for clients. They're looking for buyers and sellers they can connect, and they'll get paid 3% commission. So if they sell $1 million house, they might make 20, 30 grand, right?
Yes.
And then during that closing, they'll typically have a real estate brokerage and a mentor and a manager that will support them. And that brokerage might take a cut of it. Let's say for easy numbers, let's say it's 20%. And so on a $30,000 transaction, that brokerage will take $6,000 for supporting that agent and other things. And then you have the next tier, which is team leaders, which team leaders are typically people that have a handful of agents, typically newer, that they'll help them facilitate deals. So if I'm a really busy agent doing a ton of deals, I'll bring on a couple mentees, 2, 3, 5, 10, that can run around for me, do extra showings, and I'll share part of the deal with them. So if the commission is $30,000, I might pay $6,000 to the brokerage, and I might pay another $4,000 to one of my agents who are helping me service this deal to save me time. Is that right? So that's kind of the next tier.
That's right. Yep.
And then you have the brokerage level, which is, this is a Keller Williams, a Century 21, a First Class Real Estate, EXP. These guys, their goal, their number one target isn't to have a bunch of buyers and sellers, but it's typically to have a bunch of agents. And that is their business model. And so what they'll do is they'll service all these agents and take a small portion of every deal. Am I hitting that right?
That's exactly it. Yeah. And then so it just comes to like an equation of how quickly can you scale that, right? Because it's hard to keep everybody happy.
The brokerage.
Yeah, the brokerage piece of it. But that's the part that I'm more interested in, because I got into real estate to not just because I loved houses and I really loved the buying journey, it was more because I just wanted, I don't know, I've always been entrepreneurial. And I wanted a business that I can run and manage and that felt comfortable to me to start on. And real estate just kind of fit that mold for me. And so, yeah, within, I think 3.5 years, we grew it from just me and my business partner to 150 agents. I got, 5 or 6 employees that help me run the day-to-day operations. And those vary, so those roles vary from, transaction coordination to, compliance to accounting to recruiting, and then training. So all of those pieces play a part in the role, and then everybody has their own lane. That's the most important part. So, it's funny because a lot of people that I find, because I sell franchises now too, and you get the agents who are, so used to being those high income earners, because let's be honest, the highest paid person at a real estate brokerage is that real estate agent, because they have the greatest at bat for those high earned commissions. And just because the brokerage gets a piece of every deal doesn't mean that, they're making a boatload of cash, And so to the degree you can leverage out certain positions is how hands off you can be as the owner of the brokerage. And, all that can vary based on different styles. So, with our model, we have a team model inside the office where anybody can join it and you pay a split. and you get a bunch of different opportunities. But we also have a flat fee model as well, where you keep all of the commissions. So 100% of the earned commission gets written to the agent, and then they pay a transaction fee at closing. So it's a lot more hands off, and that's for more of those experienced agents who don't need to pay splits for guidance and mentorship. They're just running their own thing. A lot of those individuals start their own teams too, and so you can see how the cycle continues. So, in a nutshell, with the version of our brokerage model is we train up those new agents into being top producers. They roll to the 100% commission plan. And then with that savings, so let's say if they were paying in 20, 30%, splits on each deal, ideally I'd want them to reinvest that money back into their team, so don't get used to just keeping 100% as that, team lead agent. Dump that back into more marketing, more lead spend, different things that you can provide your agents, and start to scale it. And then that starts to walk you out of the day-to-day operation. So, out of a need of my own of not having a growth plan as an individual agent and as a team leader, when we launched our office, we said we want to provide everybody that opportunity and make it readily available to where when that moment hits, Devin, when you're ready to say like, dude, I'm crushing it. What's next for me? You can come into my office and I'll lay out an entire blueprint on how to get you scaled up as a team. And then eventually, if you're ready for it, you can launch your own office as well. And we have a few agents within our brokerage that are at that point, already getting their broker's license and putting those pieces together so that they can do that sooner than later.
Well, what I'm hearing is you give them room to grow. And so they don't cap out at your company and they have room to expand and try new things, which is what is going to keep those A players around. And I do like what you said about the guy that's making the most money is the top producing real estate agent.
Yeah.
But correct me on this. And really where this trade-off comes from is you can be a high producing real estate agent making $1 million a year, but you're also going to probably be working 60 hours a week. Or right. You can be a broker owner, maybe making a quarter that, half that, just depending on your business. But you're not going to be, you can probably outsource a lot of that and only work 10, 20 hours a week. Is that right?
Yeah.
So it's the difference between trading time versus building an asset that makes you money.
Yeah, 100% right. It's like you go from working endless hours where you're constantly on call. It's like, hey, I need to see this house and it's Sunday at 5 p.m. Like you're going to go show that house. Whereas typically in my role, I'm working standard banking hours, let's call it, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then we have different outlets for those agents to go to get in touch with us or if they need assistance with anything. But usually it's all scheduled and managed within normal business hours, which is a nice change of pace, because those those high income checks are nice for a little bit. Like they're really nice, and it's enticing, and it's hard to make that step away from, putting all your focus into helping buyers and sellers and earning, 20, 30, 40 grand a month, and sometimes six figures if you're, got your processes dialed in, to walking it back and then building out a business. Because one thing that I wasn't doing early on is I wasn't thinking long-term enough, And so I asked myself whenever I was in very high production, I kept finding myself in a situation where it was usually on the weekend nights. I would have anywhere from 15 to 25 listings up at any time. And I would just constantly getting bombarded with phone calls and emails and texts and things that were immediate, because a lot of these real estate agents are, when a problem occurs or they need something, like they're going to bug the hell out of you no matter what. Like they don't care what time it is. And, I just found myself saying like, is my goal next month to double my production? Like, how long am I going to keep this going for? And so, you just find yourself with that decision tree of, okay, do I want to scale something that can grow without my direct input every single moment of every hour of the day? Or am I going to stay in this grind? And so, you just kind of make a decision as to what kind of life you want to live based on the business you built.
So right now you're at 150 agents, 180 closed so far this year. What does that equal in terms of total volume sold so far this quarter? Is that total 10 million, 25 million worth of properties, more?
Yeah, here, let me just so I can be a little bit accurate in here. Let me pull up my first quarter stats. And right now we're showing total volume is looking right around, and we just ended the first quarter, so just under 40 million in volume.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so just for everybody that doesn't know, average commission might be 2.5%, 3%. So that means so far between the brokerage and the agents, that's about this quarter 1.2 million in commissions, give or take.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
And then that will be split between agents and the brokerage, just depending on the agent skill level and their skill set, right? And their status. Okay,
yeah,
but 1.2 million. So you guys might end up doing close to 5 million in commissions this year.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Paid out.
Yeah,
it's cool too, man, because you know, I manage all the bank accounts too and all that stuff. And like, I think it was in our second year, we had to increase our outgoing wire limits to over $1 million a month. And that was a really cool feeling. Like, I'm basically a bank at this point, processing checks and pushing them out. It's a fun realization. I'm like, damn, I'm managing a lot of money right now.
That makes me wonder if all of that could go into an interest-bearing account. And so if you've got $1 million rolling every month and you're at a 5% interest rate with your bank or whatever, it's like, dude, that's over the course of a year, that's $50,000 of extra that you could just collect.
Yeah. No, we've joked around about some stuff like that. And for that kind of purpose, you know, we had to do two different bank accounts. One of them is a commission processing account and the other one's our operating account. Something that's interesting too that, you know, we've looked into doing as well is commission advances.
Yeah.
With certain agents who we know have a good track record, and you can apply, you know, a certain fee to that as well. And so it, you know, it's a dual service, like get your commission check now. And then when it closes, we'll take X out of it, you know, for that service. There's a lot of different ways to do it.
Cool. So what's next on the journey? And if we're going to keep this under 30 minutes, we'll just keep it pushing. So what does the next level look like? Because you're at 150 agents. I mean, you're a pretty dominant force in your city. Where do you go from here?
Yeah, I mean, there's like 900 brokerages in Kansas City. We're in like the top 20. And it's a pretty cool feeling because we're battling up against like Keller Williams and these other ones that have like, they've been here forever, right?
Yeah.
But we're noticing a lot of disruption in the market. And, you know, we want to stay steady. I want to keep growing this up, you know, to eventually get to, you know, 1,000 real estate agents. Now that's more of a long-term play that might take, you know, 5 years or so to get there, because you do have a little bit of fall off. But, you know, my focus now is to developing better systems and processes inside the brokerage. We need to keep pushing that out. And then we're selling franchises as well. So, you know, we've launched on top of my 2 brokerages in Kansas City. We've opened 2 others on different sides of town with other team leaders from different offices. So that's really cool. Like it really gets me fired up to watch them win. And so, you know, that's a lot of our focus now is how do I simplify this process of growing and scaling a real estate brokerage to the degree that I can go to a team leader at a different brokerage and say, I have a blueprint here for you. If you follow these steps, you could be out of production, earning a solid income, and have a business that's running for you. And then what you choose to do with your time after a couple years of, you know, implementing this is up to you, you know? So, I mean, I could easily jump back into production, right?
Yeah.
Like I have that time available. I could do that, or I could jump into other ventures if I wanted to start up another business or maybe open a rock climbing gym, you know, or something like that. Like I have my time back. And so that was kind of the trade-off with opening the brokerage. It's like, do I want to keep spending my time for money, or do I want to invest my money and get my time back? And so that was the decision I made. And, you know, something that always stands out to me when making these decisions is if you could choose to be the money or the work, choose the money all day. Like, I could be the money or be the work. And so
when you say that, can you expand that? Because I don't think everybody's going to catch that. That's a great line.
Yeah. I mean, time is so limited. Like your time is so limited. Yeah. But money isn't if you manage it properly. And so I would rather work to grab the money to put that into something that's going to give me returns back. And so it's being the money instead of being the work. And so now you're multiplying your efforts at that point with the capital that you've accrued. So I choose to be the money in every aspect I can. And we were making that decision early on when the profits were slim and we knew that we were still grinding this thing. Instead of me doing more recruiting personally, I hired a recruiter, right? So I took that cash each month and I plugged it into someone who I invested into, taught them the skills, and then that bought my time back. So it's that at scale. And so I try to make that decision each time.
Well, two things about this. I love this topic, by the way. And then I'll ask you one more question and we'll nail this thing. I was reading in a book talking about how as a business owner, you're going to have returns coming in, profit every month. And what you have two options with that profit. One, you take the money, you run, you spend it on whatever crap, boats and cars and whatever. Or you reinvest it back into the business in hopes of seeing a better return down the road. And knowing where you are, which season you're in your business is important. Is it early and should you really be reinvesting it? Or is it at the point where you're going to see marginal gains from that and now it needs to go back in? And there's a quote from Jeff Bezos, which is, your profit margin is my opportunity. And what he's saying is every person that just takes profit margin out of their company, just pulls the cash out, at Amazon, they would reinvest every penny back. And that just makes a better product and a better experience, which makes a better business. So yeah, dude, I think you're spot on, man. It's why do the work when you can put the money up? But as we know in the beginning, you have to put in the work first and then the money will come. You don't do it the other way around.
Yeah. Well, then you think about it too. It's like, why are you working so hard for something that's printed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like trading that time for something that's printed. There's other ways to go get it. And so, yeah, it's calculated. You got to think about it, but I would much rather find those, I call them, what are my 50X multipliers? And this is a little inspiration from Jeff Bezos as well. And you're looking for those opportunities I put 1 unit in and I get 50 in return. And so to the degree I can bet that 1 unit 49 times because I know I'm going to get a 50X. Right. And so I just think, dude, business is going to suck and be hard for like longer than you expect. Like if you think it's going to be hard for like 2 years, like triple that number, or like double it.
I love that.
And,
I love that.
And so like, why try to kid yourself and act like, oh, I'm winning right now, let me spoil myself.
Yeah.
No, just stay in the grind. Dump it right back into systems, processes like coaching, training, like whatever you can do to where you're having passive income like flowing your direction. Now you can decide what to do with that money that comes in passively. I think that's the right choice. And it's so easy to get a line of credit as well, especially once you get into business production. Like we haven't tapped into any line of credit. We've used no loans or anything to get our brokerage going. It's just strictly off of earning income, dumping it right back into the business. But, we hit up Amex and they just had like $150,000 line of credit just sitting there waiting for us at like a 3% interest rate. It's basically free money at this point. Not like we haven't touched that, but I'm just like thinking to myself, I'm like, what can I do with that? How can I 50X this money? And so now I'm just waiting for those opportunities to come up.
That's cool, dude. That's fun. All right. Last question for those people that are thinking about starting their own real estate brokerage and going this agency model. That's what it is. What 1 or 2 pieces of wisdom would you have for the person that's looking to go from a realtor to a broker owner or from straight to a broker owner? Because you don't even need a license to own a brokerage unless you're the PB. Yeah. Fun fact. Same thing with being a doc. You can own a dental practice without even being a dentist. Anyway, 1 or 2 pieces of wisdom.
You just have to have a MSO agreement. I was actually looking at that. My wife, Kristen, she was going to partner up with a tech company for this mental health app, and they needed somebody's license to get active. So yeah, you can utilize somebody's license, and then you're the entrepreneur that has the great business model, and then you can just find that person. So early on, think of this motto: who, not how. Who, not how. Like it's not how do I do it? It's who could I find that's already doing it, and then could I pay them money to help me do it? Right. So I focus on that. fancy fails fancy fails and simple scales. Like that's good too. Like don't try to overcomplicate things early on.
Mm-hmm.
Pitch where you're going and don't focus
fun.
so much on where you're at. So when you're bringing on your first batch of agents or you're casting this vision, you have to have a vision that gets people excited. So you might be operating out of a little bitty office, or you don't have this big presence, or you look at my space, I got 9,000 square feet of real estate offices and all of this stuff. You don't need that to get going. And so, don't try to blow your load early on fancy stuff, your money reserves. That's a good one. I would try to find that managing broker early. I raised my hand early on and I said, I'll get my broker license and I'll operate it and I'll own it. Taking that back, I would probably try to identify somebody who just loves the day to day and just wants to sit in an office.
Yeah.
And make that person your broker. That'll buy back some time. If they're a good leader as well and they know what they're doing, they can coach up agents even better. I would identify those people early on. And then, figure out what your strengths are. And I like to do a T chart where you write down on one side of the page, what do you like doing? On the other side, what do you not like doing? And then everything you don't like doing, don't spend too much time trying to build those skills up. Just outsource them immediately and triple down on your strengths. So just fill in the gaps of what your business needs and stop trying to be that person that does everything. I think those are some of the best things I could pitch to someone looking to do that.
Wow. Dude, congrats on the success. That's a hell of a brokerage. It takes people a long time to get there. So nicely done.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, that's the pod.